Welcome to RPG Reanimators, a podcast for GMs where we dissect horror scenarios and offer our experiences and advice to reanimate them at the table. I'm Lex.
And I'm Alex.
Nathan and Holly got inspired watching Flatliners the other night, and we're having some technical difficulties bringing them back, so we're just letting the bodies cool down for a while until we can use the reanimation serum to bring them back to the land of the living. So until then, let's see who's in the waiting room. Today, we're consulting on an acute case of running chases in RPGs. We'll discuss lessons that we've learned from our games, discuss the various ways other systems can run chases, and then offer our best advice on how to run them at your own table. So let's begin our consultation. So, Alex, do you want to sort of, for the audience, introduce us to chases in TTRPGs and why they are such a staple element in a lot of games?
Definitely. What are chases? Chases are when one entity or group is pursuing another entity or group. And that can be exciting. It has the same excitement as combat. What makes combat exciting? Because there's danger, right? The players, if they are being chased, right, they're imagining the consequences of being caught. And there's a bit of dread to that. I don't want that to happen to me.
Right. I feel like in horror scenarios, it's common for some kind of big beastie to be chasing after the PCs, and the players themselves are having to run away to try and escape this thing. I definitely agree that chases have a similar excitement vibe as combat itself, except the whole point of this is either trying to escape from combat against something that you do not want to fight directly, or trying to catch a piece of relevant information or something before it gets away into the wind.
Like, imagine your player characters, they're exploring an apartment building in New York City, and they're knocking on that door, and then they hear a heavy piece of furniture get, like, toppled over. So they're like, okay, something's wrong. They kick down the door, the window's open to the fire escape. The chase is on. That to me, that's very exciting.
Right, yeah, like that's peak action. Like, there's so many movies that have some sort of compelling Bourne Identity chase vibe to it that you can go as much or as little into these as you want. Theoretically, they can be a big source of excitement. Right. However, in execution, a lot of the time, chases tend to, unfortunately, devolve into a series of kind of mobility, agility, what have you, skill rolls back and forth and back and forth. You either roll to pursue and roll to get away, and roll to pursue and roll to get away. And there's not a lot of variety in that, which I think can kind of feel like a flat soda at times.
Right. And I think that some of it is due to system limitations. Like, it depends on what type of system you're playing and how much narration there is in between said roles. We'll be examining a bunch of different tabletop RPG chase systems. So let's get into it.
Which system do you want to talk about first?
Well, let's go to the roots, the origins, fantasy games. So the modern iterations of, let's say, Pathfinder and Dungeons and Dragons, they don't actually use the battle map or standard land speed to catch the pursued, because quite honestly, I think the game developers realize that that's such a bog.
Yeah.
So they abstract it. Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, they use like exhaustion levels where moving is a con roll, and if you get 5 instances of con roll failures, you're out. And there's another rule where there's the pursued, and they have to get out of line of sight before making a successful stealth roll to end the chase. And then they rely on a complication table that will bring up random rolls that might add levels of exhaustion or add complications to this chase. It's very similar to Pathfinder 2nd edition as well. From their GM Core rulebook, the players, they accumulate chase points where they need to hit a certain threshold of chase points to successfully complete the chase, where the chase points represent the ability of the whole group to bypass the obstacle. So many successes for chase points that represents and is abstracted as the entire party overcoming the obstacle together or helping each other.
Yeah.
So it's not an individual.
I'll admit, I do like those at least more than some of the chases that I've experienced from my days of yonder yore whenever I played 5th edition. And a lot of the time, we tend to just get horse blinders and only focus on that VTT interface. And it's just, oh, they're going to move over here, and I'm going to add plus 30 to this token, and they're just in this gray zone at the end of the map. And it becomes kind of just a less engaged tug of war where it's like, well, I'm going to spend an action to dash, and then I'm going to action surge and dash again. And it's like it doesn't have any sort of excitement to it. It just becomes
it's
like
too
mechanical sop. Yeah, exactly.
I think when things get way too mechanical, it takes the players out of the world, out of the game, and it ruins the immersion, that verisimilitude that we're trying to build up. Now, that's not to say that if you have a creative like spell or an item that you can use. Pathfinder 2nd edition has a way to quantify that. If you use a spell, that's automatically a success. Or if it's especially helpful, it'll give you a rating as like a critical success. So they do try to blend in that fantasy element there.
I definitely agree, though, that it's whenever you get into chases, sometimes less can be more. And don't worry too terribly much about a lot of the mechanics, but just focus on exciting narration, because you're really trying to
get tense.
Yeah, get everyone's imaginations firing on all cylinders. And you just got to make it thrilling and tense by throwing in a lot of excitement. And so for the GM, this can be a lot to balance all at once in terms of not only narrating the exciting chase, but also coming up with some obstacles, coming up with this, that, and the other. Are there any other system rule sets that might facilitate this, and are some sort of better or worse than others in your experience? I know you've been doing a lot of homework on this in preparation for the episode.
I have, but I'd like to go to the different ends of the spectrums here. So we talked about, chase points in Pathfinder. Let's talk about systems where it's really scarce. Let's talk about Delta Green, right? Let's talk about the Cypher system. Let's talk about Cult. Cult straight up doesn't even have chase rules. But you have to keep in mind that the GM never rolls for the system. It's player facing.
Yeah.
So only the player rolls. So like, how are they supposed to narrate the tension of a chase if they're not rolling an opposed die roll? Well, it's really more on the GM for this type of system, this powered by the Apocalypse system, because partial successes mean minor complications, and it's up for the GM to interpret. Same thing with the Cypher system. The Cypher system in their rulebook says, oh yeah, make a speed roll. If they succeed, then it's a successful chase.
That's the way Cathorkborg is, which, Cathorkborg is really trying to get into that rules light thing. It frames chases as just fleeing one way or another, and it's just make an agility test against a DR. That's the GM decides. That's all you need. That's
a little too scarce for my taste, because I like the room for randomness, right? I like the push and tug within a limit, right? I don't want it to go for the full session, but I would like there to be, during a chase, to have the players go through different set pieces during the chase. And that's something that is extremely difficult to do. And it's very GM heavy lifting if it's just one roll. Because for one roll, right?
You're either going to narrate a cut scene, or you're just like, and it's done.
Right. That takes the players out of the game. Especially after one roll. You do one roll and the GM talks for the next 5-10 minutes. That's kind of a snooze fest.
Yeah.
I want to be engaged. So what's more exciting for me is that push and tug, because then I can narrate the different set pieces. I can narrate what the people are doing and how close they're getting.
And from a player side of things, too, it's a lot more interesting to force them to think on their feet and make hasty decisions. You really have to up that tension and be like, it's here right now. They're getting away. What do you do?
Right. What can they do?
That can be a really fun combat-esque encounter in a scenario.
Yeah. So Delta Green, their pursuit rules is you need 2 wins. Wins cancel each other out. If both parties win, they cancel each other out. The core needs to win twice more than the chaser to escape. And every roll isn't wasted at all, because even if they both fail, the lowest failure still wins. So you still have a decisive decision after every roll instead of, oh, we don't know what happened. So I do like that, where it's more decisive. But once again, this is very abstract, very similar to Trail of Cthulhu as well, where they're using the contest rules. The contest rules means the person who is acting first, whatever that means, gets to roll first. If they fail, they just straight up lose. There's no further chase. But if they win, the second person also has to make the roll and to make that test, which is usually a DC 4. And they keep going back and forth until someone loses. That's more complex than a simple roll. And I find that to be a good use of the way I narrate. I guess the point I'm trying to say here is you got to really play to your strengths. You got to try out different systems if you want to improve as a GM, as a storyteller. And once you find what works for you, you can actually transfer those roles to different games.
Do you have a favorite chase rule set from a system then?
Yeah, I would say it's something I have developed over time throughout my GMing career, and it's more like I do like the opposed roles. And I do sometimes take a success pool system. It really depends on the system, because some systems aren't transferable one-to-one, because, right, cult's player facing, right? You're not making rules at all as a GM. Once you get super good at GMing, you can start mixing together systems. Maybe I want to use a success pool to see how many successes these players need to be successful.
And saving some of the heavier hitting entries for last, I know a lot of folks tend to talk about the Call of Cthulhu system for its chase rules. And Seth Skorkowsky has a really good video going over these rules that I think is clocking in at 20 minutes or something. Do you think you can speed run us through that?
Yeah, so basically at the start of a chase, everyone makes a con roll, and if they get an extreme, they add their 1 to their movement. If they succeed or get a hard, their movement stays the same. If they fail, their movement goes down by 1. If your movement is so high, your movement rating, you can just straight up escape without any other rolls required. However, if the pursuer has a movement rating higher than the chasees, then you go into the chase, which actually slots very nicely into combat rounds as well. So you can just go into dex order or initiative. It's a pretty unique system where the higher movement ratings in the chase, they get more actions by the difference of the higher movement rating and the lower movement rating.
And most monsters have a higher move rating than standard investigators, right? I feel like I'm remembering that.
Yes. There is kind of a hidden, I would say, subliminal effect on the players when they do get into a chase in this system, because it forces them to think. They definitely know that monster is faster than them. They cannot escape this monster in a straight up flat terrain chase. So now they start thinking, what am I going to do to delay this monster? Can I use obstacles? They start to get pragmatic. And I really like how the system encourages thinking like that.
Right. It really encourages that thinking on your feet, because I like that the players can already have that meta knowledge that the pursuer is bigger, stronger, faster than they are. And if they are the mouse in this game of cat and mouse, they're going to have to be smarter to do something to make it lose them. And the possibility of just roll to escape, roll to pursue, isn't really as viable of an option. You're going to lose more often than not if you try.
So the players know that, and I think that makes for a more interesting game, because they're like, okay, what can we do now?
Yeah, and it also, the way that Call of Cthulhu recommends sketching out the chases in advance, I think is very interesting, and not something that I see other RPGs bring up, where you can plot out either a track as a circle or a straight line and identify nodes where you're going to bring up how the movement progresses. And then as a GM, you can prepare some obstacles along the way, or maybe just as you're resolving some different skill roll or something, you can plan ahead for some sort of obstacle coming up in the future, which may then halt the PC's progress, and they would need to try a different route. And so you
Definitely.
can, like narrate going down a different hallway. I think you can prep as little
Bust
or as
through
much.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There shouldn't always be one answer if you want to encourage a good, gameplay cinematic experience.
Right. I think the Blade Runner system really tries to capitalize on that too. It is, with a lot of the more recent Free League products, they focus a lot more on drawing cards for things like initiative or certain combat actions. And the Blade Runner RPG has a really unique set of chase rules that I have mixed feelings on. Overall, when a chase starts, it's written to be mostly just between a party of two, a pursuer and prey. At the beginning of this chase, which flows like combat, that plays out in rounds, the prey and the pursuer select a chase maneuver card in secret, keep it to themselves. Then the GM can either create an obstacle by narration or roll on a table to identify some obstacle, then set the scene around them, the obstacle comes up, and then the prey and pursuer show their cards at the same time. These can be a variety of actions, from the general pursue or flee, hide, block, throwing obstacles in the way, trying to cut someone off, or stand and shoot, or something else. Any of these actions is resolved via some sort of a skill roll.
Right.
And depending on what obstacle comes up at the next phase of this, you can choose to forego your action. If your action was to pursue, and then I say cars start speeding by across a street, you don't want to get hit by a car, so you can stop and kind of waste your turn. Then you just narrate until it's done. The distances between the parties are kind of abstract, and it just recommends keeping it to around 3 to 5-ish rounds. And then it kind of falls apart whenever you have more than two parties. If you have a group of investigators chasing after one perp, you either use the slowest person's initiative or speed, and then everyone else gets to sit back and narrate, I guess, or you roll for everyone, and then the prey is kind of outgunned narratively. So I don't know. None of these are really perfect, but I think they can give a lot of inspiration in how GMs want to run them.
Yeah, and I'm going to latch on to what you said. None of these are perfect, but you have to find something that works for you. So you just explained these Blade Runner chase rules. Do you like them personally?
I like the premise of the...
You like the idea?
Yeah, I like that the pursuer and the prey say what they're doing, and it happens at the same time. You don't get in, and now I get away, and now I catch up, because I think that removes the tug of war element, and it can increase some tension if one party acts differently than expected.
So you don't like the tug of war?
The tug of war is something I really try to avoid. Avoiding spoilers, but there's a specific Delta Green encounter that has some big beastie that chases after agents, and the agents have to run away. And things happen.
They have to use a MacGuffin to escape.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's still, in order for them to roll to escape, and I roll to pursue, I think in theory the Delta Green rules can be resolved quickly, but if those rolls keep canceling each other out and little progress can be made, it felt like a slog very quickly. And so it really made me keen to figure out what I could do differently to be sure that this exciting encounter was actually exciting in the future.
Ooh, okay. I think you can do a couple techniques. You can do like a little fake out, right? And now let's talk about chase techniques. What makes chase exciting?
Sure, yeah.
Definitely the set paces. You can do a little fake out where they actually lose sight of the pursuer.
Yeah,
right.
I love that.
And are you being chased still or not? And then they just come out from a side entrance that you weren't expecting, and it's like, oh, it's on again. Kind of like he just Michael Myers his way into there.
Yeah, for sure. I like that too, because you're throwing in an element of uncertainty for the players, and now you're really forcing them to think on their feet. It feels very much like a rabbit in the woods. You're like, fuck, where did it go? I don't think I got away. And then it comes up and it's closer to you now. Yeah,
you cannot get that kind of abstractness, that theater of the mind, if you have something like the Call of Cthulhu like plotted points out because the players, they can see where the enemy is at all times.
Right.
Like you can bend the rules, you can take the piece off the board, and that's one way you can do. Oh, you lose sight of the pursuer, and that would be exciting. But that's like going into homebrew territory. Like Savage Worlds also has a very complicated chase system where you take another deck of cards and you lay them out. Each card symbolizes a type of penalty you get when your initiative is drawn and you draw a club, which is crazy to keep in track. But it can be very exciting. I like how they do the escaping rolls. To escape, you have to be 4 cards away, but you can start at 4 cards away, but you'll get a -4 modifier. 5 cards away, you get a -2 modifier. 6 cards away, it's a 0 modifier, where the target number is always 4.
Okay, I got a question for you, kind of off topic before we veer back again.
Oh, go ahead.
How do you feel about using cards in tabletop RPGs sort of in general? I think Free League is trying to bring it in with their own smaller decks of things.
Yeah.
Savage Worlds uses a deck of playing cards. How do you stand on it?
It's honestly, it is just another form of random number generation for me. It's a little more versatile because you can lay the cards out. You can use them to represent different things like locations or items. But it can slow things down if you're like shuffling and you have to give everyone a card. I can't just look at my investigator matrix sheet that I've already typed up and say, okay, you have 80 decks, you have 70 decks, you have 60 decks, go, 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 go. I have to actually say, hey, you have a king of
Queens.
King of Wands. No, hey, you have a king of clubs, you have a 10 of diamonds, you have a 3 of spades. And then I have to sort them out and then scan my document of who's going where. So yes, that can bog things down, but there's always pros and cons to these types of things.
Yeah. I'm more falling onto the con side of things. It's usually whenever I run systems like Alien, where it has numbered cards from 1 to 10. And then at each round of combat, everyone draws a new card. So their initiative constantly shifts. It just feels like a lot of additional work for me whenever I can just focus on narrating instead of halting that progression or that flow.
Right. But for something that uses cards like that, why can't you just use a die?
Yeah, same. Like I
so
very much roll a D10.
Change the rules to do that. Yeah, I think it's it's quite performative when they're using playing cards like that. Like I get it when each symbol represents something, but like if it's just 1 through 10 or 1 through 12, just roll a die.
Yeah,
all at once. Even
I'm with you on that there. But anyways, back to chases. So we've covered how a lot of these systems tend to roll things, and I think we're sort of voicing our general preferences and strategies, but now let's dive all the way into it for how do you tend to make your chases shine? Are there any techniques or things that you've learned to really make these more effective?
Yeah. So prep is your best friend.
Yeah.
Also being able to think of on your feet and improvise is also a good skill to have, but like if you have prep time, I would definitely use that. If you know there's a chase coming up, map out what kind of path it would take to escape the pursuer or to catch the pursuee.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'll definitely say that like those two things are not mutually exclusive.
Right.
You can prep for a chase and also feel free to improvise and really embellish certain details, because I feel like the more that you prep for something, the less cognitive tax you're having to instill to kind of keep the general thing on track, and then can be more free to improvise and shift things around in a more engaging way.
And we can get into different types of prep too. There's the specific prep, that this scenario is going to happen in like a New York City apartment block. So you have just like logically, you got the fire escape, you got the alleyway, you got onto the street, you got through a storefront. And I'm just making these up as I go. But like if you have a scenario that's more surreal, right? Nothing changes at all besides the paint that you paint these points at, right? So if you have a surreal scenario, you can have a meadow, going into a mental asylum, going into a theater, right? Going into Paris, going into, an otherworldly city. Like just as you exit one scene, it goes into the next. Because as a GM, what you say happens.
Right. And I think that as long as the players feel like things are shifting wildly around them, that's the most important point. I fully
Right.
agree on this in regards to another very popular Delta Green campaign where it really encourages GMs as written to, come up with these things on the fly. Wild things are happening. And honestly, I don't recommend that. I don't recommend full improvisation, like gloves are off and it's just we're making it up as we go, because your brain is going to be spending more of its energy trying to come up with
Right.
what's happening now and what's happening next, that the descriptions and that in the moment tension is going to fall by the wayside some. So I fully agree that
Right.
you should really plot out the general areas and progression of certain parts of the chase, and then feel free to slide in more details and make it feel more hectic and jarring.
Yeah, just to add to that, if you write out every single point of the chase, you can then add detail. As Lex said, personally, if I was doing that, I would just like hit enter, I would tab over and say, hey, these are some of the key details in this plot point or this set piece.
Yeah.
Right. So under storefront, I would have I don't know, smash through glass window,
Topple over
product spilling
shelves.
over. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Some imaginative stuff.
I think that's really good to come up with potential obstacles just that you
Right.
can throw out if you want. You can
Right.
mention that they're there as an environmental detail and let players pick up on that.
Right.
I think another thing too that's really important for chases to prevent that tug of war element to it is to give your players choice in any of these set pieces that they're going through. The obvious choice isn't always just roll to dodge, roll to escape, but give them, like, they can run out the door of this bodega or they can go deeper inside and try and lose them in the stock shelves or something.
Yeah.
Like, always give them at least two places that they can try and go to.
You slam through a door and there's people just like cutting up meat and you ended up in a different store.
Right. Like, oh yeah, this is just a butcher shop that's next door. It's, oh, what are you going to do now? Hide
That's
amongst
so
the
exciting.
bodies? Yeah.
Yes. There's another type of prep you can do for chases as well, and that is making a random table for yourself.
Mhm.
Like, these are some possible things that can happen during the chase. So when the players inevitably do go off course, you can still have something there saying, okay, this is a complication. It happens when you run this way. You can actually do this ahead of time. You can do this years ahead of time by just doing generic obstacles as an exercise for yourself. These are the potential obstacles in an urban setting. Bam, 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 type those all out. And then when I'm playing any system at all with an urban setting, I can pull up those chase conflicts.
Right. And this is an excellent opportunity, like where we were going through all of these other RPG systems. A lot of them will tend to have some sort of random encounter or random obstacle table. Copy paste those bad boys down. Pick out your favorite ones that are at least more or less versatile. I like the idea of couching them by setting in case you have a very urban environment or you're doing like
Right.
a forest chase or something like that. And that way you can just have a stack of tables handy and then you can pick and choose whichever ones work for yourself. I think that any GM is going to kind of come down to a set, like a chase approach that works for them. It works for how their brain tends to process things and can deliver an exciting environment at the table.
Yeah, and if you don't want to do all that, you can just buy it if you have the means to, because there's people on Drive Through RPG that sell like chase tables or like environment tables.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So yeah, you can go ahead and support those communities as well if you don't want to do it yourself.
I think another sort of personal preference question for you then. What do you feel kind of roundabout is a good duration for chases at the table?
Oh, until people stop getting excited.
Yeah.
So I'm reading faces, I'm reading body language. I have a personal kind of meter. When I get bored of it, I want to try and look towards ending it.
Yeah.
So that what that means is not just like ending the chase because I'm the GM and I can just do what I want, but like giving the players more opportunities to escape.
That's when the ghoul slips on a banana peel.
Yeah. Yeah, or making the obstacles more difficult and more decisive. So if you get this, you get it. But if you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
Just funnel it.
I agree on that. I think generally I approach chases a lot like how I approach combats, and most of the time, 3-ish to 5 rounds, I think, is usually about the point whenever that energy is sort of waning a bit, or we're not making a lot of progress, especially by the time you hit 4 or 5 rounds. And I'm just like, okay, we need to progress this into something else.
There's actually a really great video game I enjoy called Heavy Rain. It's got a bunch of like
Oh
quick
my
time
God,
events.
yes, all those quick
Have
time
you seen
events.
the video where a guy just like straight up
Oh, he
fails
fails
all the
all.
quick time
Yes,
events?
yes, I love it.
That's good. I would recommend watching that because like if you see that and people like you fail everything, like I'm pretty sure if you fail everything, nothing matters at all. So don't do that.
Hmm.
Have consequences for failure. I'll post it. It'll be in the show notes.
I'm gonna post some dank memes in the show notes.
Ray Chase fail.
Press X to Jason.
Yeah, but yeah, you can watch action movies. You can play action video games for inspiration. Yeah, like in the Heavy Rain chase scene when the FBI agent's like chasing the perp, like there's ice that runs through like a live chicken farm and he's throwing chickens everywhere, and that's crazy. It's so fun.
Hmm.
And like he runs across the street, almost gets hit by a car. That's so exciting, and that's something that your players should experience.
Yeah. And I think, again, providing them options and opportunity at each of these junctions of the chase where you're doing more than just roll to escape. Give them a little something else to do. And if there
Right.
isn't that much else to do, give them something else to experience.
As a GM in a chase, narration is like of the utmost importance. So make sure you narrate every roll because the players, you're sitting there, whatever you say is it happens. So make it exciting.
Yeah, it reminds me of one of the bits of advice in the Mothership Warden's Operation Manual, where it advises don't just say you miss, but narrate something else that happens because of it. The bullets spray wide and poke holes in the ceiling or whatnot.
Right.
Don't just say, it glances off their armor. Done.
Right. You trip over and you clatter into the stacked up modules, or you are trying to get to your car and you fumble with the car keys and you drop them
Right.
underneath your seat. Oh my God, that's exciting.
And that's so much more exciting than just, you can see the car. You're almost there.
You failed the drive roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do not pass go.
Exactly. Well, that's it for time. No. So just takeaways. There's a lot of different philosophies here. You just really gotta find what works best for you. I'm not you. You're not me. I'm not Lex. Lex isn't me. We have different styles. We have different preferences. I mean, we have the same.
Am I
name.
me?
Who knows? I don't even know if I'm me. But yeah, if you like more roles, choose a system that has that tug of war. If you want to simplify things and chases really aren't your thing, then simplify it with one role. Go get that takeaway from Cypher or Mothership, right? Play to your strengths. Don't be afraid to mix and match systems if you're comfortable with that. Do you have any takeaways?
For final takeaways, I would say try out a variety of systems, maybe the ones we talked about here, maybe others that we may have missed, in order to really identify what works for you and what doesn't. If you have halfway decent players, ask them for feedback on it in terms of what really worked for them and what didn't. And I think focusing on each junction of a chase being something exciting that causes players to think on their feet and have an uncertain outcome is really a goal that I try and keep in mind personally. And I think that it can lead to an exciting chase scene, but results are not guaranteed. So always try to approach these with an open mind. And I don't know, have fun is like the best fucking takeaway I can
have. Make things tense and exciting.
Yeah.
Right. I would say, yeah, here at RPG Reanimators, we're trying to improve GMing in general. So I think part of improvement comes from having different perspectives, experiencing new things instead of just sticking to one system. This influx of like new ideas is going to allow you to basically tone yourself into the GM that you want to be.
We hope these insidious whispers are helpful in addressing this topic at your table, or please don't chase us to come up with some better alternatives.
Oh my god.
Be
That
sure
sucks.
to check out the show notes for links to things like Heavy Rain and any other resources that we can recommend, as well as an invite to our lab's Discord server to discuss more reanimations and consultations. We also post these episodes and resources to our Patreon that's free to follow, or if you like, you can make a charitable donation to help us keep the ominously flickering lights on at the H. West Memorial Mortuary and Laboratories. So until next time,
Thanks for listening to RPG Reanimators.
where your games can die
Or live.
on the table.
This guy blew his load. It's over.
Story of my life. What?
Unlucky.